Hello, and you are most welcome to this pit stop for Zona, the Secret of Chernobyl, designed by Krzysztof Glosnicki and Maciej, and published by Rebel. It's a 1 to 4 player adventure game taking 2 to 3 hours, depending upon your player count. Now, each of the players is a scavenger in the irradiated area in an alternate world in which the Chernobyl disaster has happened, but things have got a bit more crazy. All the players are looking to get into the sarcophagus in order to win the game to find out what the secret is inside that banned area. On a player's turn, they're going to take 2 actions. What can they do? Well, they can move for one of their actions. The board is split into areas. You simply move across as long as it's not a barred border, noting that some of the borders make you take damage when you move across them, one of the 3 different types of damage in the game. And that is a bad thing, because when you take damage, you will add it onto your track here. And when you go down to the bottom, you've got 4 attributes which you're going to use during tests for the game. And every time you take more damage than that, one of your attributes is going to get a permanent -1 to it. So we want to avoid taking damage from anything in the game. We can do that by using our equipment. Each of the players starts with their own set of equipment that's individual to them, and they can buy and sell more in order to create your own little amount of equipment in order to get you through the game. And some of your equipment can take damage for you. For example, this NBC suit could take that particular type of damage. It was radiation, and then I wouldn't take the damage for myself, but this is all used up because equipment itself has got a certain amount of uses it can use. It might be 1 and it might be more, so you'll need to keep track of that. When you're in an area, each of the areas have got their own local action, and you can take that local action. Now, the local action happens to be for the wetlands here to have an encounter, and there are 4 types of encounters in the game. Depends if you're in this safer green area, whether you're in this more dangerous yellow area, and when you get to the red area, you'll only go there when you're feeling confident and you're getting towards the end of the game, and we'll talk about that right at the end. When you're in an area, there are 2 different types of encounters you can have. There's either mutants, which will be like monsters that are running around that are radiated, which you can defeat and usually get to keep their bodies as trophies, or there'll be anomalies. In the wetlands, it's going to be an anomaly. But whatever type you're meeting, often it will follow the same pattern. You'll flip the encounter over. It'll tell you what it do. In this case, this toaster turns documents I'll be carrying into ashes. Documents can be very valuable to you, so that's a bad thing. The first thing will always be an alertness test. Now, for any test, you check the particular stat linked to it, and you check what your value is, and you check the difficulty. It's difficulty 2, and I happen to have an alertness of 2. Then for every test, I get to roll these test dice. Any pluses that I get will add to my value. Any minuses will take away from my value, and I then check and see whether I've got enough. So in this case, a plus and a minus leaves me on 2. I needed 2 to pass the test, so I will get the green result. In this case, it's nothing, but the red result would have been a bunch of damage to me. After you've done the alertness test, whether you choose to have an encounter or are forced to have an encounter, then you get to choose to run away, and you would leave the encounter like that, or you choose to take it on. And if you choose to take it on, you look at the next test, and in this case, it happens to be a smarts test, and given that I'm the scientist, I'm very smart, I've got a value of 4, and that's a 2, I will roll these again. And even though I got a minus and a plus, I would still pass, and then I'd get whatever the reward is. Now quickly, the final thing is, if ever you roll 2 of these damage icons, no matter what else happens during the test, you will take 1 damage unless you've got equipment and etc. Also for tests, you can use certain amounts of equipment. For example, for different types, you might be able to use different consumables, which will help you out. This double-barrel shotgun would help me in a strength test, but only if I was fighting a mutant, and they all add to different things. This is an alertness test for an anomaly, so I could have used my modified detector to help me out if I was having trouble on here. Now, when I pass the test, like I said, usually mutants you get to keep as trophies, and then for these anomalies, they all give you access to artifacts. And artifacts are special equipment you can take during the game. They're usually reusable, and quite often there's a negative to using them. So this one, this crumb, I can use it once per turn. I'd mark that I used it on my turn. That's going to allow me to recover fatigue. Now, fatigue is another type of system in the game. If you ever get too much fatigue and you take more, you'll start taking damage. You can use fatigue to force yourself to re-roll 1 die during any test that you're doing, but also the game will force it on you. So for here, I could heal fatigue, but it would directly give me damage. But it depends what I'm doing, why I might need it. I might need to spend fatigue for a particular effect. So these artifacts will be handy to you, but usually they have an impact which is negative to you. When you move, If you move into a location that has an encounter still there that wasn't fully resolved by a player or it's just been hanging around, you have to face it. That doesn't cost one of your 2 actions. However, you can choose. That was a local action I took there to have an encounter. If I'm in this area and it appears, or I didn't beat it last time, for one of my 2 actions, I can choose to face that encounter and again go through the same testing procedure, rolling the dice and checking my stats. Now, fatigue we're talking about, for one of my actions I can rest and ease my fatigue for 1, or I can pass. But there are these 3 bunker areas in the game. If I'm in the bunker areas, I can do the local action, which is camping. When I'm camping, I can spend money in order to heal my damage. I can spend money in order to take damage off my equipment. I can also sell items that I don't want anymore. For these items, they come with certain areas of the body they cover. You can only put a certain amount of them. So with this NBC suit, let's say I had another suit and I can't use both of them at once, I could choose to sell it in order to make some money. They've all got a price on the bottom right. The other things I can sell are these mutant trophies, which we discussed. They all have a value. For this meat hog, I could sell that for 300 rubles, and then getting that money in. Why would I bother? Because you can spend money to do stuff at certain points in the game as you look around the place, but also you've got this market available to you of junk and of equipment. That's how you're going to stack up this equipment. That's how you're going to power yourself up, and that's how you're going to progress during the course of the game. Once everyone's taken their 2 actions, people would get encounters. If you're in the bunker, you don't get an encounter. If you're in the green area, you choose from the green encounter deck. When you flip it over, it will have 2 specific areas. If I was in the frontier or the junkyard, I'd have a specific one. However, if I'm not in those, I get a generic encounter that happens to me, and all sorts of stuff happens out of these, all sorts of story things. In the yellow area, it's exactly the same, but you will get slightly tougher encounters in there. The red area again is different. We'll get to that. Once everyone's resolved their encounter, we're then going to draw out one of these rumour cards. The first thing the rumour cards does is it pushes down the emissions track. If that ever gets all the way to the bottom, we're going to get an emission. Finally, what it does is all this, it's going to be an action on here. Quite often the first player has to make a decision, and you might be moving around a monster to put it somewhere else, a mutant, or various different things will happen, and usually it's the first player, which will rotate clockwise at the end of the turn, who's making decisions on this rumour. Now, I said the emissions track, and I passed over what happens during an emission. Let's talk about what happens in an emission. If you are not inside a bunker at the beginning of the rumours phase, you do get a chance to spend fatigue if you're adjacent to a bunker to move into it, because you can see the emission is likely on the track. If you're not in there though, if you're in the green area, you'll take a load of damage. If you're in the yellow area, you'll take even more damage. If you're in the red area, you'll take the most damage. So that can be very awkward for you to get caught out while there's an emission going on. The track will reset, so you can see it slowly building up during each of the rumour phases. We'll then go back again. This will pass on to the next player. Everyone takes 2 actions, does their encounters. We get our rumour, we'll see if there's a mission, and so on. But what are we trying to do? Well, there's an action on your turn that I glossed over, and let's talk about it now. There are these 4 secret areas in the game. Each of them has 1 entrance. They also have a randomised thing you need to do in order to unlock this area. So the first player who wishes to come in here must do something. In this case, discard 500 money and an artifact. I'm smart, I'm good at dealing with anomalies, gets me artifacts. This might be a place I want to go. I'll move in here. Now, once I have unlocked it, it is now open for everyone, but a maximum of 2 players can be in there at any one time. When you're in a secret location, you don't draw the normal encounter cards, you draw the secret location encounter cards. They will give you more difficult tests usually to pass or fail. If you fail, it's going to be something bad, obviously. But if you pass them, and sometimes when you fail, you get to take a secret. It starts with a stack of secrets equal to the number of players in the game. You turn them over. They're all very handy items. You get to choose whichever one you want to take. A prototype rifle, that looks lovely, and put the rest back. Now, as well as this being available to me to use during the course of the game, also, I'm going to need 2 secrets before I start moving across into that red area. I can do it beforehand if I want to, but there's no point. They must be from different bunkers. You can never go back and take a secret from another bunker. I'll be pushed out there once I take one. When I go into the red area, for my local action in there, I'm going to take a certain amount of damage. Then I have to face a difficult yellow encounter. And then if I've got 2 secrets, I will then get to move into the power plant. That's the only way in which I can move into the power plant. Again, once I'm in there, I'm going to get a difficult test, always based on willpower. So you're looking to build it up and grab things that help you with willpower. If I pass that test, I get to relocate into the sarcophagus. When I'm in the sarcophagus, instead of drawing other encounter cards, I draw a sarcophagus encounter card. They always follow the same structure. You'll have a difficult test at the top. If you pass it, you'll get a choice of 2 difficult tests. Which one are you best suited for? If you pass that, you will get to flip the card over and you will have won the game. Now, the effects sometimes get a little bit crazy. Your character might not feel like you've won the game, but for the player, they certainly have won Zona, the Secret of Chernobyl. This has been a Game Pit Stop. For more videos like this, check out our YouTube channel. For more in-depth coverage of gaming, please check out the Game Pit podcast. Thanks.